What's up, everybody? Nick Dwyer back for the 10th inning with another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw the great Babe Ruth become the first player for a while to hit his 700th career home run. At that point, just adding to his record, an already unbreakable record at that point, but it wouldn't be unbreakable for the rest of his career. He is now one of 3 players with 700 plus home runs. He currently sits third time on the all-time home run list. But we do have some more milestone home runs to talk about today. We have some Olympic records to talk about today. And we have some Tour de France championships to talk about today. So if you all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel, want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. This day in sports history. We start out today at the Olympics in 1912, and Kenneth MacArthur runs an Olympic record marathon at 2 hours, 36 minutes, 54.8 seconds. Now this actually would have been a world record too. However, it was registered at 2 kilometers short, so it couldn't really be registered as a world record. Still an Olympic record though, because MacArthur was about 20 minutes ahead of the pace of the current Olympic record, so 2 kilometers would have been the record either way. We move up to 1951 and we have the first ever color telecast of a sporting event on CBS. It was a horse race. But we know how monumental it was when we got the first radio broadcast of a sporting event, just like the same it was when we had the first television broadcast of a sporting event. Now we had the first color telecast of a sporting event, which really just changed the USA and really the world. Ironically, also in 1951, in his last race, 1948 Triple Crown winner Citation wins the Hollywood Gold Cup by 4 lengths to become American racing's first millionaire horse. We moved to Major League Baseball in 1956. Boston Red Sox pitcher Mel Parnell no-hit the Chicago White Sox in a 4-0 victory. On the day, 9 innings pitched, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts for Parnell. 7 years later, we moved from 1963, but we really have 1963 through 1965. We're talking about the Tour de France here. In 1963, Jacques Anquetelli wins his 3rd consecutive event, becoming the first rider to win 4 times overall. 1 year later, Jacques Anquetelli would win once again, making it 4 consecutive Tour victories and first person to claim 5. 1 year later in 1965, in his first year as a professional cyclist, Felice Gimondi, a replacement on the team, would actually capture the overall title, making this his one and only title of his career. Finally, in 1966, at the Tour, Lucien Aymar would win his only Tour de France. Then we move to 1967, back to Major League Baseball. Now we have 2 500 home run hitters in a row. First in 1967, Houston Astros player Eddie Mathews would hit his 500th off of San Francisco Giants pitcher Juan Marichal in the top of the 6th inning. Mathews would become the 7th player to do so at the time. 1 year later in 1968, we have his former teammate, Hank Aaron, still with the Atlanta Braves, would hit his 500th home run off of Mike McCormick in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Aaron would become the 8th player to do so at this time. He is also one of the 3 with 700 plus home runs in his career. We stick with Major League Baseball in 1972, and plate umpire and catcher Bill Haller and Tom Haller would be the first brothers to be catcher and umpire in the same game. Haller was the umpire, Haller was the catcher. Okay, Bill was the umpire, Tom was the Tigers catcher in the game. However, the Kansas City Royals would end up defeating the Tigers 1-0. We move over to the British Open in 1973. Tom Weiskopf, with a score of 12 under, would win 3 strokes ahead of runners-up Johnny Miller and Neil Coles to win his only career major. But we move back to Major League Baseball in 1974. Billy Martin becomes the first American League manager ejected by an umpire from 2 different games in one day. Obviously, doubleheader. A man we just recently talked about, Earl Weaver, would also do this, but he would do this a year later. So Martin can claim he was the first to do so. 4 years later, stay with Major League Baseball, we have another ejection in 1978. Doug Harvey this time would eject pitcher Don Sutton after discovering 3 stuffed balls. Now basically what Harvey was saying was he had no proof that Sutton was doing it. All he had proof was that Sutton was throwing a stuffed marked ball. Therefore, by the rules, you weren't allowed to do so anymore, so he got ejected. Now we move back to golf in 1985 at the US Women's Open. Kathy Baker, with a score of 8 under, wins her first and only LPGA major, 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Judy Clark. Stay at the US Open 1 year later in 1968 on the women's side. Jane Geddes, with a score of 1 under, wins by 2 strokes after an 18-hole playoff with Sally Little to win her first of 2 majors. We go back to Major League Baseball in 1987. The Rookie of the Year award is officially renamed to honor Jackie Robinson, not only the player who broke the color barrier, but the first to win the award once it was a national honor in 1947. Stick with baseball in 1988. We have another home run record. This time, Mike Schmidt would pass Mickey Mantle with his 537th home run. This home run would come off Mike Scott, and it would put Schmidt into 7th place all-time at the time. Now he currently resides in 15th place. We move back to golf in 1991 at the US Women's Open. Meg Mallon, with a score of 1 under, shoots a final round 67, 4 under, to finish 2 strokes ahead of runner-up Pat Bradley to win her second of 4 majors. Back to baseball in 1995, Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Ramon Martinez would no-hit the Florida Marlins in a 7-0 victory. Martinez on the day, 9 innings pitched, 1 walk allowed, 8 strikeouts in the no-hitter. Back to golf in 1996 at the Senior Players Championship, Raymond Floyd, with a score of 13 under, would win his first of 2 event titles, 2 strokes ahead of Hale Irwin. We stay at the Senior Players Championship, but we move to 2002. Stuart Ginn, with a score of 14 under, would win his only career major title, 1 stroke ahead of Hubert Green, Mike McCullough, and Jim Thorpe. We move up nearly another 10 years to 2013. This time we go to the US Senior Open. Kenny Perry, with a score of 13 under, wins 5 strokes ahead of runner-up Fred Funk. But now we go to Wimbledon in 2018 and 2019. First in 2018 on the women's side, Angelique Kerber becomes the first German to win since Steffi Graf in 1996, defeating Serena Williams 6-3, 6-3 in straight sets. This would be Kerber's third of 3 majors in her career thus far. Move up 1 year to the men's final in 2019, and Novak Djokovic would win the longest ever Wimbledon final that took 4 hours and 57 minutes over rival Roger Federer. Djokovic ended up winning this 7-6, 1-6, 7-6, 4-6, 13-12 in 5 sets, marking his 16th career Grand Slam singles title of 17 overall. Stay in 2019, move to the Cricket World Cup. England would defeat New Zealand on a count-back 26-17 after the scores were tied at 241 after 50 overs and 15 in the super over. Once England did finally defeat New Zealand, they were able to win their first title in the Cricket World Cup. Move to golf now in 2019 at the Senior Players Championship. Retief Gulson, with a score of 6 under, would birdie his final 2 holes to secure his first Champions Tour win, 2 strokes ahead of Jay Haas and Tim Petrovic. Finally in 2019, at the British Formula 1 Grand Prix at Silverstone, Lewis Hamilton would win a record 6th time, moving him 1 win ahead of Jim Clark and Alain Prost. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, I do apologize. If I mispronounced any names, I also apologize. But I will see everybody tomorrow for Nick Ridgewire and the 10th inning. Be good, everybody. See ya.